And welcome back to Hannity. We continue with the former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor, Newt Gingrich. So I had you on the other night. I loved an analogy that you use. You know better than anybody. You were the Speaker of the House. You said you get a box and everybody, what you need, the parameters in which you can pass a bill. I'm not particularly happy, and I think the president has not been served well by the way they rolled out the health care repeal replace. I know there are complications. I understand 51 votes, cloture. I get the whole thing. But I would have liked to have seen the arguments that we knew were coming, that were telegraphed were coming, resolved before they released the initial bill and not have the intramural fighting. Maybe it all ends up fine, but when Freedom Works and Americans for Prosperity, Club for Growth, Heritage Action, Cato, the Freedom Caucus, the study group, and Senators Paul, Cruz, Rubio, and Lee are against it, it looks bad to me, especially after having 8 years to put it together.
Well, I mean, it certainly looks messy. But, and I think this is part of where you and I just disagree. You know, Vice President Pence, who was the chairman of the Republican Study Committee, who before that was, I mean, the Republican Conference, rather. Before that, he was a state legislator. And then after that, he was a governor. You know, he made the point, look, this is the process. So there had to be a bill to mark up. They brought out a bill that people on both sides, you're going to have some moderate Republicans with a little heartburn. You're going to have some conservative Republicans with some heartburn. Now they got to go through a process, and it's a messy process. Phase one, they got every single Republican on 2 committees. These are big committees, Ways and Means, Energy and Commerce. Every single one voted for it.
Yep.
Now they got to test the water.
And the amendment process, no one has any idea how it's going to come out. Am I so unrealistic that I know? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, Vice President Pence has pointed out, you know, now the process goes forward. We suspect, well, I don't know, but I suspect there might be 1 or 2 amendments in order by the time we get to the floor. The conservatives will have a real shot at amending it. Then Paul Ryan, with the help of the president and vice president, has to get a majority of the vote to go to the Senate. The Senate's going to be very different. You're going to really dislike this, Sean, because the Senate margin is so narrow. You know, they've got to get 50 plus Vice President Pence. That means they got 2 votes to play with. Well, you've got 2 or 3 moderates on one side. As you point out correctly, you've got 3 or 4 conservatives on the other side. And then you have people who have real concerns, such as Senator Portman's concern about the opioid crisis. All of those have to be blended to get to 50 and Pence as a minimum. Now, when they do that, they're going to have a bill that's not quite capable of passing the House. And then the real fun will start, and they're going to have to get in a conference committee,
yep.
And they're going to have to fight this out.
In conference,
and
I understand.
The question will be, and
am I naive, though?
I think, by the way, at some point you'll see President Trump on the road in some key states campaigning to make the case.
Listen,
this is better. There's no question. This is better than Obamacare.
I understand. I get the process. I get the sausage making. I understand the whole thing. Am I naive in thinking that a lot of this public fighting could have been avoided had everybody got in a room and worked it out, at least a lot of it, not all of it, ahead of time with all the considerations you laid out, especially because they had 8 years to do this? I'm naive, right? I'm stupid.
I think that, no. I mean, last year the Republican House had a bill. They went through a long process. I think they had 7 different member meetings, and they put together a bill that I think had pretty wide support. I think they probably underestimated the importance of going through something this year that was more transactional. I agree with you on that. My only point would be, since you're off on the sausage making, is you ain't going to get a sirloin steak. There is no way in the American legislative process to get a sirloin steak. We might get a slightly tastier sausage. How's that for a Friday afternoon analogy?
Mr. Speaker, have a great weekend. Thank you for being with us.